Hello and welcome to the Enlighten Me with Ronny podcast, with your host Ronny. Before we start this conversation, let's jump to our esteemed panel of global leaders. First out is George Bush. How are you today?
Vision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of Iraq.
Okay, well that's weird, but let's hear from President Joe Biden.
And now is a time when things are shifting. There's gonna be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. We've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. So,
Oh, really? Well, how about Canada? Justin Trudeau. What are you planning?
Building back better.
Okay, how about the Australians? What is your plan?
We will be looking at what contact tracing looks like in the New World Order. And yes, it will be pubs and clubs and
And esteemed Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum.
In short, we need a great reset.
World Government Summit. Your thoughts about the subject?
At Dubai Expo 2020. And the title of this session, Are we ready for a new world order?
Okay, let's change subject. What is COVID-19, Mr. Gates, if you will?
It's a disease mainly of the elderly, kind of like flu.
And we have some sad news, I hear.
Well, sadly, the virus itself, particularly the variant called Omicron, is a type of vaccine that.
We do have some great news, doesn't we, Hillary?
Unconfirmed. Yes, we came, we saw, he died. Did it have anything to do with your visit? No, I'm sure it did.
I also hear that we have an unjust war in Ukraine. So who are we fighting for?
Right now, it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order.
Fuck it. That's that. So today, we're joined by Micah Dank, author of the Into the Rabbit Hole series, Astrotheologist, and Ancient Holy Book Decoder. And last time I heard you talk, you had 2 books. Now I checked, you have 5. So are you done with the series, or are it's coming more?
I have 6 that are out so far. My 7th is coming out in 3 weeks.
Okay. So yeah, I was checking. I counted 8 books, but I think some of the books was more than one book. If you buy you get all the books in one buy or something.
Right.
Okay. So you're going to have a presentation for me here, trying to decode the Bible. So if you're ready, have at it.
Okay, do you see this?
I do.
Okay. So I say, employ your time in improving yourself by other men's writings, so that you shall come easily by what others have labored hard for. That's Socrates. That's what I'm doing, is I have maybe about 30 years worth of experience that I'm going to share with you. Now, the Bible is made up of what's known as the 7 holy sciences. It's metaphysical, astrological, which I talk about, anatomical, alchemical, spiritual, esoteric, and mythology. The Bible is not literal, it's not historical, it's not reality, and it's not original. This is the zodiac wheel, with Capricorn at the bottom and Cancer on top. This is how it's supposed to look, okay? Now, astrology goes back 17,000 years to what's called the Lascaux Caves. There are caves in Lascaux, France. As you see here, the Lascaux cave painting 17,000 years ago, and the world's oldest cave painting shows humans understood complex astronomy 40,000 years ago. So what they did was these teenagers went into the back of the Lascaux caves. And when they went into the back of the caves, they saw something like this on the back of the wall. And on the top, you see the bull. And on the right, you see the many faces of the lion. And on the bottom, you see the horse. Now, they quickly found out that this was astrology. They realized that the bull was Taurus, the lion was Leo, and the horse was Sagittarius. It's just missing the guy with the bow and the arrow. What they did was they brought in a computer and an astrologer to rewind the sky back 17,000 years after they carbon dated it, and it came out 17,000 years. So they rewound the sky back 17,000 years and they printed out what they saw. And when they put it over the cave paintings, they found out that they all lined up. Okay, so we've understood astrology for 17,000 years. Now there's questions you can ask in the Bible. How Jesus was able to heal the blind, how he walked on water, how he turned water into wine, why he had 12 disciples, why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, why he was dead for 3 days, why is his birthday on December 25th. All that is astrology. Genesis 1:14 says, let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years. And that's basically what it is, okay? Now I'm going to go over the 12 signs of the zodiac, and I'm going to tell you the key words in each one, and then we're going to use that to decode. So Aquarius, the first sign I talk about is Aquarius, which is represented by the man with the water pitcher. So whenever you hear the word son of man, man, because they're both the sign of the man, whereas Virgo is the sign of the woman. Baptism, because this is how you baptize someone, a man with a water pitcher. Water pitcher, fountain, stream, river, pond, lakes, ocean, sea. Water bodies, because there's water in the picture. They're talking about Aquarius. Pisces is the mutable water sign. It's the sign of the two fish in the water. So stream, river, pond, lake, sea, ocean. That also applies to Pisces. Aries is the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day, 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or the passing over of the sun over the equator back on its way to its height in the summer solstice. In Christianity, the passing over is changed, and it's called the resurrection of God's son. In Judaism, the Passover is when the angel of death passes over the houses, and anyone that doesn't have the lamb or the ram, Aries the ram, doesn't have the ram's blood smeared on their door, their firstborn sons get killed. So whenever you hear ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn, you're talking about Aries. Taurus is the bull. And when you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know that you need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seed so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow being a female bull, you're talking about Taurus. Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, you're talking about Gemini. Then Cancer is the crab, and it's the sideways moving creature. So just as the sun rises a degree on its axis starting on December 25th, it stops on June 21st. Today is June 21st. In the Northern Hemisphere, today is the summer solstice. The sun is at its height, okay? Then what's gonna happen is for the next 3 days, the sun is gonna stay at that height, hence walking sideways like the crab. Then on June 25th, it's going to lower a degree. Then the next day, lower another degree. And then the next day, lower another degree every single day until it hits December 21st. That's the winter solstice. Then it's going to walk sideways for 3 days again. And then it's going to come back to life on December 25th. Now, the crab in the ancient Egyptian time was known as the scarab. So whenever you hear crab or beetle, you're talking about Cancer. Then Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So when they're talking about the kingdom of heaven on earth, it's a metaphor for the sun being in Leo because that's where it belongs. So whenever you hear lion, lioness, or cub, you're talking about Leo. Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. So remember before when we said that you plant in Taurus, well, the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, grainy things that you harvest, that's always done in Virgo. Then Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. And the reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. And the Jews always celebrate their new year around the fall equinox. Libra is also wine season, so which is when you plant for the grapes in Taurus, you could press the wine here. So whenever you hear law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, lawly things, that's Libra. Libra is also wine and olive oil season, or olive season. So whenever you hear wine, vineyard, wine press, olive oil, or olive oil, they're talking about that. And incidentally, frankincense and myrrh are both olive plants as well. Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is known as the betrayer. So when a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death, And it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. So the sun is judged in Libra and it's betrayed in Scorpio. Finally, in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun, effectively killing it. Why does it kill the sun in Sagittarius? Well, because on December 21st, the sun is at its lowest point. It cannot rise any lower. It's dead. It doesn't rise above the horizon. So the ancients would look at the sun and say the sun was dead. And then it's the dead of winter. And then it stays there, it walks sideways for 3 days. So suddenly God's son was dead for 3 days. When on December 25th of the birth of God's son, it rises another degree and starts to make its way back on top. So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, spear, or horseman, or death, that's Sagittarius, because its death is because December 21st is the day of death. And finally, you have Capricorn, because he's the goat, because he likes to climb the mountain. So if you look at the zodiac wheel on the right, you have Capricorn at the bottom and Cancer on top. So imagine climbing a degree starting in Capricorn alongside the wheel every single day until you hit Cancer June 21st. And then it continues to crawl down, down, down until it hits December 21st. It does this every year. Goes up to June 21st, walks sideways for 3 days, goes down to December 21st, walks sideways for 3 days, comes back up December 25th. And it starts to climb in Capricorn, which is the mountain. It starts to climb up the mountain. So that's what it means. So Ronnie, do you have any questions based on the 12 signs? Have you heard this before?
I've heard you speak, it has to be a year ago, so I tried to refresh my memory, but I have one question about the zodiac because I put it up here on my second screen just to follow along. So on mine, Cancer is where Leo is on this one that you're showing. So why is that? Because you have changed where the year begins, or?
I'm confused. What do you mean? Ask me again.
So on my screen, I have the same wheel, but it's tilted a bit. So I have Cancer where Leo is on the one you're showing. It's one step to the right. And Gemini is in the top.
Yeah, so that's incorrect.
Okay.
So that's incorrect. This is correct right here. This wheel is correct right here.
Okay.
Capricorn at the bottom and Cancer at the top.
And that's why, because the goat is a climber and he needs to be in the bottom. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, then I try to follow along here. This is pretty new to me, so yeah.
Okay, so there's names that you can give Jesus that he's given in church that are actually astrology, believe it or not. And people in church have no idea. Okay, the Son, Jesus is the Son, S-U-N of God, not the S-O-N of God. That's just the story. He's actually the Son. When the Sun is in Capricorn, the goat, he's called the scapegoat of Israel. When the sun is in the sign of Aquarius, the man, he's known as the Son of Man. When the sun is in Pisces, the 2 fish, he's known as the fisherman of men. And it's why he feeds the masses with 2 fish. He's the Lamb of God, or the Good Shepherd of the ram in Aries. He's the Lion of Judah, also known as Leo, the lion. The lady holding the stalk of wheat, he's born of a virgin and he's called the bread of life. Libra is the scales of justice, he's known as the just one. In Cancer, I told you he was also the scarab. St. Augustine called him the good beetle. Okay. Now he's betrayed in Scorpio. He dies in Sagittarius on December 21st. And it's why he's worshipped on the sun day. Okay. Now look at this picture of Jesus on the left. I'm going to draw your attention to a couple things. The sun behind his head, the 2 fingers up like this, the heart outside the body with the crown of thorns, his white face with the beard. Okay. And the red and the white. You remember how I told you that the Bible is also alchemical?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the red and the white is also in alchemy. It's known as the marriage of the red king and the white queen. Okay. In other terms, it's also known as mercury and sulfur in alchemy. Okay. Now, the sun is always behind Jesus because he represents the sun. The 2 fingers up are an ancient Kemetic peace sign. This is an ancient peace sign. Whenever you see Jesus, or you see Baphomet, or you see Buddha, or you see any of them doing this, they're telling you they're peaceful. This is a war sign. This peace sign, this is not a peace sign. This is the Churchill V for victory. The fingers are separate. This is a war sign. This is the original peace sign. Now, the white Jesus picture is actually a guy named Caesar Borgia, who was the bastard son of Pope Alexander VI. Before then, there was no picture of him, and it was decided his face would be the face of. Now, the crown of thorns wrapped around the heart on the outside, and the heart is always on the outside of the body, represents the rays of the sun. The heart outside the body represents the toroidal field, the human toroidal field. Look at these pictures of Jesus. You'll see the sun's always behind his head. In the second picture, sometimes you'll see a Knights Templar or Rosicrucian cross. Okay, but the fingers are always up. The heart's always outside the body. You'll always see the cross. Okay. Here's pictures of baby Jesus. Okay, you'll see the North Star Polaris is always shown. Okay, you'll see the sun behind his head at all times. Okay, this is the human toroidal field. This is what it looks like. It looks like an apple. Okay, with your body being the core of it. It goes around you 6 feet. Okay, that's why the elites were trying to keep you 6 feet apart during the pandemic, because they didn't want you communicating with one another. When someone comes behind you, Ronnie, and you know they're there, and you just know they're there, you're not psychic. They just broke your toroidal field, so you could sense them. Okay, when two people interact, it looks like this. Okay, this is what the toroidal field do. Some people call it an aura. That's what it basically is. Now, this is a picture of Jesus on the left. The picture on the right is Caesar Borgia, whose face gives the face of Jesus. It's not an exact face, but you can see where the features come from. Because before the Shroud of Turin was discovered in 525 AD, almost all paintings and, and drawings of Jesus were shown as a beardless young man. Okay? But then he comes around and suddenly this is what it looks like. So now we've gone through some basic information. So let's start decoding with the code I gave you. Are you familiar with the term pride comes before the fall?
Yes.
Can you explain it to the listeners?
Well, if you have too much pride, you're going to do something stupid, I guess. You're going to go over your own way and hurt people before you fall down, I guess.
Correct. Okay. But do you know what a group of lions is called?
Pride.
Exactly. A group of lions is called a pride. Pride is the lion. Lion is Leo. Leo is in July and August. That comes before the fall, the season of the fall. So that's how you read it astrologically. Now, Micah 5:2. But you, Bethlehem Ephratah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from ancient times. However, Bethlehem is two words in Hebrew. It's Bet, which means house, and Lechem, which means bread. So the house of bread. Each zodiac sign is called the house. So it would be the house of Leo. I'm Libra, so it's the house of Libra. This would be the house of bread, would be Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk, the virgin. So what they're saying is when the Savior comes from Bethlehem, the Savior comes from the house of bread, or Virgo. So the Savior will come from a virgin. Does that make sense?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay. So now I'm going to read you Deuteronomy 32, and we're going to check all the signs. He gave them honey from the cliff and olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So let's go over this real quick. He gave them honey from the cliffs. In the sign Cancer, there's a group of stars called the Beehive Cluster. So that's where the honey comes from the Beehive Cluster. That's in Cancer. Olive oil is Libra. That's when you press the olives. Okay. Milk from the flock, that comes from the Milky Way galaxy, which has been called that since the Egyptian Book of the Dead. The Milky Way galaxy's center is in Sagittarius. So you land from the Beehive Cluster in Cancer to the Milky Way galaxy in Sagittarius. That's your land of milk and honey. It's not a place on Earth. Okay. He gave them lambs, that's Aries, and goats, that's Capricorn. They had the best rams, that's Aries, from Bashan, and the finest wheat. The lady with the wheat stalk, that's Virgo. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. That's Libra. That's when you purse the wine. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. The bull is Taurus. So in this one passage, you see the 10 signs, right?
Okay, so what does that mean, really? You're
Well,
going through a whole year. Okay.
I'll get to that. Now, the Mount of Olives. Jesus led his disciples to the Mount of Olives after his last Passover, so he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olives, he gave the parable of the true vine. So Passover takes place in Aries. So look at Aries. Aries is on the left. Okay? Well, right after that, he walks to the Mount of Olives. Well, olives are Libra. So Aries to Libra, that's across the zodiac. They're opposing signs. Now, while they're in Libra, they're waiting for Judas to betray him, which happens in the next sign, Scorpio, the betrayer. Remember, I told you the Scorpion is the betrayer? So you go from Aries to Libra, that's a pattern. Libra to Scorpio, that's a pattern. While they're in Libra, he gives the parable of the true vine, and that has to do with grapes and wine. So again, that's Libra. So this is important first step to understanding how to decode this.
Yeah, okay.
Genesis 1:7. And God made the firmament and divided the waters, which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. The firmament is the dividing lines between the zodiac signs. You can see it right here. There's 3 of them right here, or 4 of them. The dividing lines are known as cusps. They're known as handover dates. It's a 3-day period where one sign's energy hands over to another. Okay, this is the firmament. It's the dividing lines. Okay, now these are the 2 water signs, Aquarius and Pisces. The firmament divides them. So, and God made the firmament and divided the waters, the 2 waters, which were under the firmament, from the waters which were above the firmament. Okay, so that's how you read that. Now, Revelation 4:7. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. The first living creature was like a lion, that's Leo. The second was like an ox, that's Taurus. The third had a face like a man, that's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. In astrology, the scorpion is the belly crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. Its evolved form is the eagle. It's known as the ascendant. And the eagle's evolved form is the phoenix. So the Scorpio crawls on its belly. It's a low form of life on Earth, but the eagle is the highest flying form of life on Earth. That's why it evolves to it. So now you have Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio. They're the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. Now, Leo and Aquarius are opposing signs. Taurus and Scorpio are opposing signs. So let's read this once again. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. It makes this pattern in the zodiac when you connect them. So what's more likely, Ronnie? There's going to be a 4-headed animal in the sky with a human face, a lion face, a scorpion face, and a bull face? Or they're talking about this? What's more realistic?
Guessing this, yes. Or they
Yeah.
have some weird creatures back in time.
Yes, exactly. Ezekiel 10:14. Ezekiel's wheel is the zodiac. The 4 cherubim, 4 points of the zodiac. Spring equinox, fall equinox, Aries, Libra. Winter and summer solstice, Capricorn, Cancer. Each of the cherubim have 4 faces. One face was that of a cherub. The second was like a human being. The third had a face like a lion. And the fourth was like an eagle. It's the same shit. Right? It's the same shit. Ezekiel's wheel is the zodiac wheel. Okay? Revelation 12. A great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. So what's more likely? There's going to be a dragon that knocks stars out of the sky and a pregnant woman in the sky. Or the woman clothed with the sun is the sun clothed in Virgo. It's a metaphor. If the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. So, Ronnie, there's 12 signs of the zodiac. There's a 24-hour-a-day clock. So the sun spends 2 hours a day in each sign. That's just simple math. If the sun is in Virgo, that's between 4 and 6 p.m. So if the sun is in Virgo, the sun is still out. So the moon will be at her feet. Whereas when the moon is up, the sun is at her feet. So it's just another metaphor. Now, another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. The constellation Draco is the dragon. Its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the signs, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. You see its tail on the left? That's what it does.
Yep.
So to answer your question before, the reason they did this is because they didn't have clocks, watches, phones, calendars, weathermen on TV telling you what's going to happen tomorrow with the weather. They didn't have any of that. All they had was looking at the stars. There was no pollution because there was no industry. So all they did was look at the stars and they saw everything. So they were able to see during the day and at night what stars were where, and they figured out what you were supposed to do. Okay, that's why it's so important, is because they encoded these books metaphorically with all the information about the stars so that people who didn't have the knowledge wouldn't be able to get it, because this was survival. And what people do is people protect their knowledge. You see that with the World Economic Forum, you see that with the presidents, you see that with all that stuff. They get privileged information, right? And then they don't share it with anyone. Well, it's the same thing here too. Okay, another revelation, Revelation 7:4. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. So I'm sure you've heard of the 144,000 before, right?
It actually is unfamiliar for me, that number.
Well, okay, so this number 144,000 is supposedly to the Jehovah's Witnesses and a lot of religious people. They believe that only 144,000 people get to go to heaven.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Okay. But have you heard of the chakras? Do you know what the chakras are?
Not really. I should know this because I'm from a religious family, but the no.
You never heard of the chakras, the energy points on the body?
Ah, yeah. The chakras. Ah, I thought you said some chakras, like something stinging you, but okay, the chakras.
No.
Yeah, yeah, the yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So check this out. There are 7 chakras. The root has 4 petals. The sacral has 6. The solar plexus has 10. The heart has 12. And the throat has 16, which equals 48. The third eye chakra is represented by 96 and only has 2 petals because it's 2 times as powerful as the lower chakras. 48 times 2 equals 96. The crown chakra is 1,000 times more powerful than the lower 6 chakras. When you add the lower 6 and then you add the 1,000 and you multiply it by the 1,000 for the crown chakra, the third eye chakra, you get 144,000. When you've activated all your chakras, that's when you get to go see God. That's when you go to heaven. It's a metaphor. Okay, there have been billions and billions and billions of people on Earth throughout history. Does it make sense that only 144,000 go to heaven? No, it doesn't make sense at all. Right, this is what they're talking about. Okay, so let me show you another one. Behold, Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Well, the sheep is Aries, the lamb, the ram. And the wolf is the constellation Lupus, who borders the Libra line. They're opposing signs. Look at the pattern they make. They're opposing signs. Ronnie, what I'm going to show you is that not only in all this stuff, they're talking about, it's not that they're just talking about a random sign. They're not talking about Virgo and then Taurus and then Capricorn. What they do a lot of the times is they make patterns. They go across the zodiac or they talk about the connecting signs. It's always connecting signs or opposing signs. That's how you know these patterns are real. Okay? So I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament, as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. Let's take a much longer passage, see if we could decode it as well. So you're not from a religious family, but have you heard of the book of Job?
Yeah, I am from a religious family. That's why.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, that's why I should know all this stuff you're talking about.
So do you know who Job was?
Yes, he was the guy that he had to kill his daughter or something and lose all his wealth, and he got tried. That was Job, right? Or
he got tried, yeah. Can you explain to your listeners his story real quick? What the story was, the bet between the devil and him, unless you want me to do it.
As I remember it, he was tried in a few different times and he lost everything, and the devil came and basically said he can have everything back if he
right
if he believes in the devil, and he always said no.
So Job was a righteous man. He had land, he had money, he was faithful, he had family, he had wealth, he had a house. And he was God's most faithful servant. Satan goes up to God and says, you know, the only reason he's faithful is because he has everything. If you take stuff away from him, he won't be faithful anymore. He'll curse you. And God says, I don't believe that. You can do whatever you want to him, but don't take his life. It's important to know, too, that the book of Job is the first book of the Bible. Not where it's located, but it was the first book ever written. Okay? Now, so Job starts losing everything, and at one point he cries out to God. And God answers him. And I'm going to read you God's answer. Now, the first line is the scripture for what God says. The second line is the interpretation. So Job 38:32. Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth? Well, the Mazzaroth is the zodiac. The Mazzaroth literally means zodiac. So he says, do you know your zodiac? That's the first thing he asks. Mazzaroth over time becomes Mazalot, which survives in Judaism today as Mazel Tov. You've heard that, right? Mazel Tov. That's good fortune from the stars. And you know how old Mazel Tov is. So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Well, these are just open star metaphors. Then he says, can you bring forth the constellation in their seasons, or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations of the zodiac above and the bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper. Who can tip over the water jars of heavens? Literally, a man tipping over the water jars of heavens is the sign of Aquarius. Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger for the lions? That's Leo. Who provides food for the raven? The constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Do you watch where the doe bears her fawn? Mriga, meaning deer, is located in Orion. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's Acellus Borealis, meaning donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus, the ox. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully. That's Lambda Achille or Al Thaliman, which means two ostriches in Arabic. Do you give the horse its strength? It laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver rattles against its side, along with the flashing spear and the lance. The quiver is what holds the arrows. So Sagittarius is the bow and the arrow. Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? That's Aquila, which is a Latin name for eagle, and is a constellation a few degrees above the celestial equator. Finally, he says, can you pull in Leviathan with a fish hook? If you know who Leviathan was, he was an ancient fish god, fish being the fish, that's Pisces. So you see here that God's entire challenge to Job is, do you know the zodiac? Do you know the stars? Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Right?
Yeah, okay.
So before I go on, I want to know, what do you think of everything so far?
I think maybe. I think that's my answer. I think you may be right, because it would make sense that they would encode the texts like the occult, like the elites are doing today. So I'm not sure who. Do you mean the priest, like the Vatican knows this
No,
and
this
are
isn't the
using
priest in
it?
the Vatican. This is the Old Testament. This is thousands of years before that.
Okay, so it's the pharaohs or someone who's using it in that case.
It would be the Jews.
Yeah, okay.
The Jewish rabbis. The people that wrote the Bible. They encoded this. Look at this. Psalm 104. He sends forth springs in their valleys. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle, and wine which makes man's heart glad, so that he may make his face glisten with oil. The high mountains are for the wild goats. He made the moon for the seasons. The sun knows its place in its setting. The young lions roar after their prey. The springs are Aquarius, the water. The wild donkeys are Acellus Borealis, which are in Cancer. The cattle is Taurus, the bull. The wine is Libra. The oil is Libra. The wild goats are Capricorn. The moon in its season and the sun knows its place of its setting is openly talking about the sun and the moon. The lions roar after their prey, or Leo. Okay, you notice I've gone through about 8 to 10 different biblical texts, right? It's not all from the same place. I've done Psalms. I'm going to do the book of Matthew. I've done the Job. I've done Revelation. It doesn't matter what book you take. It's all encoded the same way.
Yeah, I'm with you so far with that. The only question I have is how do you, what's the purpose? Are
The
they,
purpose of this is, like I mentioned, they didn't have clocks or anything. Okay, if we had a cataclysmic event, if we had an event where there was like a nuclear war and we went back to zero and we were hunting and gathering, we would need to know how to hunt. We would need to know which plants and flowers and whatever are poisonous. We would need to relearn that. We would need to learn medicine. We would need to learn everything, how to make glasses so people can see. We would need to relearn everything. Okay, this tells you how. Okay, because the sun tells the hour of the day, the moon tells the day of the month, and the zodiac tells the month of the year. It's a perfect calendar. It's the first calendar. Do you know what a farmer's almanac is?
I can guess what it is. They have some special almanac where they, this month you do this and the next month you do
That's
that.
what this is. That's what the Bible is. That's what the zodiac is. It's an encoded farmer's almanac. Okay.
Okay.
Let me show you this real quick. John Dominic Croissant. My point once again is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. And that's what the religious people do. They take this stuff literally, and it's not meant to be taken literally. You know, let me do another one from
Yeah,
Psalm 140.
that's a big thing here. They say, I believe every word, and they, well, people say that around here, so yeah. But
It's
they're
wrong.
reading it wrong, then I guess.
Right. So he gives to the beast its food and to the young ravens which cry. He does not delight in the strength of the horse. He does not take pleasure in the legs of the man. He makes peace within your borders. He satisfies you with the finest of the wheat. He gives snow like wool. Ravens are the constellation Corvus. The horse is Sagittarius. The man is Aquarius. The wheat is Virgo, and the wool from the sheep is Aries. There's 5 signs in these 4 sentences. Answers to the questions at the beginning. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. In the Bible, the blind man comes up to Jesus. He licks his fingers and touches the man in the eyes, and suddenly he can see. But the sun does the same thing too. Right now, the sun is out so we can see. But when the sun goes down, we're blind. We need the sun to come up in the morning and touch our eyes so that we can see. How he walked on water. Have you ever seen a sunset on a lake before? You see how the sun literally walks on water?
Yeah, it's reflecting.
It's reflecting, yeah. And Christos too. Christos in Greek means the anointed one. It's oil. Doesn't oil also walk on water?
It does, yes.
Okay, so this is a double entendre. That's what this is. How he turned water into wine. This is not something that Jesus did in 2 seconds. This is a process. The reason God is considered a man and Mother Earth is considered a woman has to do with the rain, has to do with God's reign. In Hebrew, the word is shemen. We get the word semen from it. It's a sacred fluid. So what happens is God's sacred fluid comes down onto Mother Earth, and from her belly, grass grows, food grows, vegetation grows. She gets pregnant, and then because of the rain. Okay. So what happens is you have Taurus, the bull. Remember, you see the bull, you have to plant with the bull. April showers bring May flowers. That's Taurus. Then it rains and it rains and it rains. You plant the grapes. And then in Libra, you pick the grapes and you make the wine. That's how you turn God's water into wine. Okay?
Okay.
Why he had 12 disciples, we went over that. Judas being Scorpio. I'll give you another one. John the Baptist, the man with the water pitcher, is Aquarius. Why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, we went over that. Why he was dead for 3 days, we went over that. Why is his birthday on December 25th? We went over that. So this science only works for people in the Northern Hemisphere, and there's a reason for that. The Egyptians, Jews, Christians, and Muslims are all based out of the Northern Hemisphere. For example, June 21st, today, the summer solstice is actually the winter solstice in Australia and New Zealand, much of South Africa and South America. Okay, now that's why, because otherwise everything would be reversed. If the Holy Land was in the south, everything would be backwards.
So working from this, have you heard about the Bok saga?
The what?
The Bok saga.
No.
It's a different origin story, and it basically says the mankind came from just below Helsinki, Finland. So
Everybody has a place that it comes from. Some people say Greenland, some people say Africa, some people say Australia, some people say China, some people say South America.
yeah, I'm just when you say it works just in the northern hemisphere, the north is Finland, Helsinki. So yeah.
Right.
But, yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm from Finland. That's why I have actually had just guessed about the Bok saga on, so that resonated. That's why I
Gotcha. Doesn't stop there. It's not just random passages in the Bible that could be decoded this way. We're going to go through the entire book of Matthew. I'm going to go line for line through the book of Matthew, one of the Gospels, to show how deep this runs. Now, remember everything that I've shown you how to decode. We're going to use that. Matthew 3:2, repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the four major points of the zodiac, the solstices and the equinoxes. When you connect them, they form a cross. This is known as the cross of God's Son. The kingdom of heaven is Leo, whose ruling planet is the sun. This is the only sign that the sun rules over. The closest of the 4 points is June 21st in Cancer. So today marks the beginning of the book of Matthew. Okay? This is the firmament between Cancer and Leo. If you look at the left, I've made drawings so that you can follow along. It's the beginning of the kingdom. There's a saying in the Bible that says the firmament shows God's handiwork. The firmament are the dividing lines between the signs. Now, the next passage, Matthew 3:4, John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts and wild honey. So what stands out to me is the camel hair, the coarse camel hair clothing, and eating locusts. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the zodiac, we can make sense of it. Now, I didn't need to use the Vitruvian Man. I could have used a stick figure, but it just looks better when I use the Vitruvian Man. Cancer being in the head is why he eats the wild honey. In Cancer, there's a star cluster called the beehive cluster. Bees produce honey. You see, the head is in Cancer. His mouth is in Cancer. That's why he's eating the honey. It's a metaphor. Leviticus 11, what's clean and unclean to eat. All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of these, you may eat any kind of locust, katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. So there's the locust. The locust is food. So when the World Economic Forum and everyone's telling you to eat bugs right now, know that it's biblical. They're getting it from the Bible. That's what they're trying to do. Now, a little lower down on the body is the clothes made out of camel hair. So we were just in Cancer. Now we're in Gemini. Those are connecting signs. In Gemini, there's a constellation called Camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. So right now you have the head and the upper body so far. Little lower is Taurus, which is the midsection, which is where you would wear a belt. Taurus represents the bull and the female is the cow, which is where you would get the leather. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits between Taurus and Gemini. So next would be the baptism. Now, how are we going to go from the beginning of Leo to a water sign to signify the baptism? You would go across the zodiac. Cross signs, as they are known, are the signs opposite location. For example, Aries and Libra are cross signs. This is very important. A sign's two most important signs are its two neighboring signs and its cross sign, or its opposing sign. This is encoded in the book as well. Here we see how it makes a leap from one firmament to the other. The man with the water pitcher in Aquarius is personified as John the Baptist with the water. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th and rises a degree a day, then that must mean that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and decrease a degree a day. This is why John 3:30, John says, he must increase, but I must decrease. It's also why St. John's Day is exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. The next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we're going back to the Cancer Leo firmament of July 24th. This one is simple. He's tempted for 40 days. So we're in July 24th, so count 40 days. That takes you to September 2nd. September 2nd is in the middle, right in the middle of Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk, right? The bread. The next passage, Matthew 4:3. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see mention of the bread, which tells you that the sun is in Virgo. So we're in Virgo. The next passage says 5:17 and 22. I did not come to abolish the law. And if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. Well, this takes place in Libra, the law and the judgment, right? So when you are in the firmament, it could be used to talk about either side. So if I'm in the firmament of Cancer and Leo, I could talk about honey. I could talk about crabs. I could talk about scarabs, beetles. If I'm in Leo, I could talk about a cub, a lion, a lioness. You see how that works if you're in the firmament because you're between the two signs? Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. So now, Matthew 7:15 and 16. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? The sheep are the ram. The sheep and are the ram in Aries, and the grapes are in Libra. Once again, these are opposing signs. Moving along, Matthew 13. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. The story now moves from Libra to the barrier between Aquarius and Pisces, as he is right beside the lake, or the two water signs. See, he's beside the lake. If he was in the lake, he'd be in one of the signs. But because he's beside the lake, he's between the two signs. Its cross sign is the Leo-Virgo firmament. As it's across from Virgo, the wheat stalks the grains. Is it ironic that Jesus' next parables are the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast? Moving right along, next is the fishing net parable. So we're just going to go back across the zodiac again to touch Aquarius, Pisces. Because it's between Aquarius and Pisces and it's touching Pisces, you could talk about the fish, which is why you have a fishing net parable. Gemini is the sign of the two men, technically twins. However, that's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. This ends at the firmament of Gemini and Cancer. How do we know this? So we know that the twins and the brothers are in Gemini. But if you follow the Gemini-Cancer firmament and you go to its opposing sign, that's Sagittarius-Capricorn firmament. Do you know what day that is?
No.
December 21st. Do you remember what happens December 21st?
That's the birthday.
December 21st.
21st. Okay, so that's 3 days before Christmas. Does she get pregnant?
No, that's the day of death. Remember?
Is he? Oh fuck! Is he? No.
Sagittarius with the bow and the arrow shooting the sun.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the day of death. How do we know that? Because the next story is the death of John the Baptist. As I've mentioned previously, death comes at the end of Sagittarius. So let's take a sentence which sounds like it could be in the Bible but isn't. If I say to you the rulers were divided between war and love, it split the land in half. You could read that as a literal translation, or the ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who's the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra is Venus, who's the goddess of love. There's your war and love. If you connect it, it literally splits the zodiac or the land in half. These are deeply encoded metaphors, Ronnie. Matthew 14, 17, and 32. But we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. The bread and the fish are opposing signs in the zodiac. Also, Pisces is the 2 fish, which is why Jesus fed the masses with 2 fish. And the reason it's 5 loaves of bread, it's 5, is because the year starts in Aries. Well, if you count 5 signs from Aries, you get to Virgo. So that's why it's 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish representing Pisces. This is the cross. So this is what the cross looks like. The solstices and the equinox. This is the cross of God's son. We were just in Virgo, and now next is Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? What stories do we get now? The story of the temple tax, the unforgiving debtor, divorce and marriage, so that's all law, and the parable of the vineyard worker, that's wine, law and wine, remember? As you can see how this is encoded now. So then next is the Scorpio, which is the betrayer. This is where Judas betrays Jesus with the kiss. And then Sagittarius is next, which is the death. This is the death of Jesus. Astrology is a language. If you understand this language, the sky speaks to you. And Ronnie, that's the first half of my presentation. I think that's all we're going to be able to get to today, but I wanted to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I have a priest cousin. I hope I can get him to listen to this and see what he thinks. Because I'm open to the most things, and I don't think, at least you have found something, because it works. So that's at least
It makes
that.
sense, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
it make more sense than faith?
Yeah, because faith is you have to believe something. This you can at least try to work it into, as you have done. You read the Bible and look for the signs. I don't know how many how how many books in the Bible have you tried this on, and are you?
I'm going through all of them right now. Let me show you. Hold on. Can you see this again?
Yep.
The book of Matthew, the book of Revelation, the book of Enoch, Jubilees, Gospel of Thomas, Mary Magdalene, Melchizedek, Philip, Judas, Secret Gospel of John, book of Psalms, Gospel of Q, Book of Mormon, Gospel of Marcion de Sinope. Books not Bible related: the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Enuma Elish, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Code of Hammurabi, the Quran, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. These patterns also work in Egypt, in Egyptian works. It also works in Sumerian and Babylonian works too. Okay.
Okay.
Now I have a 6-book series out so far on this. This is what it is. It's Into the Rabbit Hole series. This is what they look like. Okay, these are the 6 books. I do ship signed copies, and from where you're located, I can ship to you guys. If you guys are, if you or your fans are interested, or you could just get them on Amazon. It's called Into the Rabbit Hole series. It goes deeper into this stuff. I also have a kids book called A is for Aries. This is for 6 to 11-year-olds. It's an introduction to this shit. Okay.
Okay.
And that's basically it, my friend.
Yeah, send me the links for that, and I'll post it in the descriptions. And I hope my priest friend listens to this, so I can have a discussion with him, because he knows the Bible well. He's a priest. He knows the Bible. That's his job to know it. So with that, yeah, thank you. This was fun. I don't know. You're onto something. Let's see. If I get my priest friend to listen to this, I'll send you his thoughts. See what he has
That'd be
to say.
nice.
So with that said, send me the links to all the books you showed, and I will put them in description. And have a nice day. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. Take care.
Yes, bye.